Alright, we are looking at a fuck you comic today. Who doesn't love a good fuck you comic? This is All America Comics starring the original new character, America Vasquez. This is the first issue from Image, and her time has come. Who is she? John Cena? I'll explain what is going on. In 2011, the writer of this, Joe Kelly, he created a character at Marvel called America Chavez. Don't hold it against him. Marvel took the character and made her into ham-fisted propaganda. She became the worst character ever and was a mouthpiece for very far left agenda. I know talking about it makes it sound like I am morphing into raging 15-year-old here, but those comics are the exact sort of thing that gave rise to, and for a time, legitimised those type of people. The original character, though, it bared only very slight cosmetic similarity to what she was made into. Joe Kelly's America Chavez was almost none of the things she became known for and mostly hated for. And now this comic is the original writer saying, "You fucked my character in horrendous ways, so I am going to open by having her punch an evil version of herself that is meant to represent your version." We will come to the Instagram narration. No, we won't. We'll talk about it now. All her inner monologue is given to us via Instagram posts. And you will definitely cringe at that. But this is a sequel, unofficially, to her first appearance where something like this was done. The series that featured her, that introduced her, was called Vegans. It was one of those miniseries where the writer brings together all their assorted works over the years, all their continuity, their corner of a universe. You had his Defenders, you had stuff from Incredible Hulk, stuff from Uncanny Excellent Men. You had this, you had that. You had the Young Bastards, which he didn't even do, but for a while, it made me think that he was the writer of that. But Vegans, it's a series, a story I have some nostalgic fondness for, because I got it at the time for starters, that always helps. I bought it when it came out, and it is good when all these little things I knew about came together in one story like that. He writes a really good Satan's Son. I have spoken of two good Satan's Son writers since the 90s. He is one. In that series, the narration, although not really narration, there is some caption boxes in parts where it was two characters in a chat room, an IRC, Ms. A and Alt. I also want to point out that, despite the names, Ms. A is not America Chavez. That would be a criticism. It is very easy to not pick up on the idea who the Ms. A actually is. Spoilers, but only because people genuinely didn't pick up on it at the time. You still see Ms. A or Ms. America listed as aliases for America Chavez on a bunch of websites. That is where the Instagram posts come in. The original story, at its core, it was about teenagers. So the internet was important. And in 2011, it was before Twitter and Instagram, well, before they became the popular social media sites. And to me, it makes sense to update that to Instagram in the however many years between vegans and this. Now, the beatdown of the fake pretender is about as blunt as you can get. It is clear that Joe Kelly is miffed that he is forever linked to a character that will now make him associated with all the stuff with that character that he never did. She mentions Tibor here, the guy who doesn't speak any English at the power plant. The Doctor Strange villain. They don't change his name in this. She had an encounter with him in issue 2 or 3 of Vegans. We have more Marvel over here. It is pretty blatant with its ties to Marvel. We have the Avengers, but not the Avengers. Captain America, Iron Man, Vision, and Thor. Except now they are called Colonel Free, WMD Man, The Wraith, and Thor. She didn't actually meet the Avengers in that original story. She teamed up with the Defenders. I would have preferred to see knockoffs of them. Have a character here actually called Satan's Son. That would have been nice. Thor, this version of Thor, is a woman. We are being so petty to even comment on that being stupid. Not Thor being a woman. We're not criticising it for that. But rather how Marvel don't quite understand that Thor is Thor's name and not a title or a superhero identity. With comics like this, the biggest hurdle for me is either taking it seriously or being able to separate it from parody. I couldn't do either here. But I don't think that Joe Kelly was expecting people to do that. He wants people to get that these are Marvel characters. As for taking the story seriously, I could take the character by him seriously, but only by virtue of that Vegans series. It feels more like, I said before, an unofficial sequel. One of the big creative differences here is that we have a different artist. The Vegans miniseries was penciled by Nick Draco Malfoy, who is now the artist on The Artist Selling Comic. He did artwork for that story, but he's not here. I seem to remember he was announced as being part of this, but for whatever reason dropped out. I wonder if there was some pressure there, or maybe fear of what it might do to his career to be part of such a big fuck you. Would he still have become the artist on Obsolete Batman if he had so loudly went against Marvel? Probably. I don't think many people paid attention to this, as it turns out. I think we can all agree with or empathise with the creator. It's not the first time someone has created a character and then they have been terrifyingly transformed by another writer or a company. When Joe Kelly created America Chavez, she was never intended to be unabashed propaganda. And we are talking about a character called America. Joe Kelly's intent was creating a Latin American powerhouse. That was his goal. He wanted to create a character that resonated with a large group of people who he felt hadn't had the most representation. There are problems with his America Chavez. There's some stereotype in there, like her attitude comes off as a bit obviously caricature. And there's the other big thing, which is her sexuality. She is, let's do this respectfully, promiscuous in vegans. She has casual sex with a lot of men. It is one of the character traits that we are immediately introduced to her with. To play devil's advocate, the new male character in that series is also the same. I think maybe Joe Kelly was of the mind that teenagers are having a lot of sex, rather than any stereotypes about Spanish women. Marvel made her lesbian, aggressively lesbian, preaching to the readers that life is better if you are lesbian. She came from a lesbian dimension where everyone is lesbian. I'm not making any of that up. You could say the character was bisexual. That would be really easy. You can get away with that, no problem. But to say that she is a lesbian and has only ever been a lesbian, and that being a lesbian is her origin, it is flagrantly going above and beyond in not reading the one fucking comic she had appeared in before weaponising her. To be frank, there's not much story here, but I don't think there was meant to be. It's hard to criticise it for being random bits when its main priority is being screed by the writer. Here we have her fight Imperator Dowd. I honestly have quite a low tolerance for this sort of stuff. At least nowadays. The pastiche superhero characters. I think the double whammy of The Boys and Invincible did it for me. I just don't care about bootleg versions of popular Marvel or DC characters. You're never going to top Marky Mark J and what he did with Marvel's Justice League. You're in the same space as Van Morrison and Albert Moore. You need to do a lot more than just go, here's a character that you clearly know who it is meant to be, but with a clunkier, worse name. There is one element here that I found modestly intriguing. The possibility that Imperator Dowd might actually be the Christoph Christopherson version. You see, back in Vegans, Mr. Doom, he was on a cover, yes, but inside it was his heir, his would-be son, Christoph Christopherson. That was who America and the Defenders met. There's a great, genuinely great, interaction between Satan's son and him about fathers. The main reason I brought it up, honestly. She really defeats the Mr. Doom send-up. I was going to say how if this ever happened in the real Marvel universe, It will be nearing the sort of dross that she would do in that solo series. And when I thought of that, I started wondering if this is part of the parody. Is having her defeat everyone's favourite Marvel mega villain meant to be commenting on the amount of stupid, over-the-top validation the character would be given with her scripts and her stories? See, when you have something that can class as parody, like my YouTube channel, it's hard to discern if a point is real or intended as a dig. Here we have many pages of art. America Vasquez falls between dimensions. And then she ends up in front of the existence. All that is and ever was. It's eternity. It's more or less eternity. This too is touching on ideas from vegans. We had stuff in that with chaos and order. And at the same time, we have maybe the exact same point as with Mr. Doom. Eternity becoming aware of her. Eternity knowing who America Vasquez is. It could be making the same point about her being handed everything. The highlight is that at the end we have a Who is Who inspired profile for her. I appreciate that. And then the end is odd for a few reasons. First, it sets up a next issue. There never is one. This character was never featured in anything again. It seems to set up a future issue though. It's kind of a cliffhanger. We bring in, on the last page, Maximum Annihilator. This was a teammate in Vegans, with a different name obviously. And unlike America, he never appeared again after Vegans. In this, his face is also no longer scarred, an injury he incurred over the course of Vegans. I think the backstory behind this comic is what makes it worth reading. No one is going to pick this up without prior knowledge and see something in there. I am left wondering about the tease of more. Was this always meant to be a one-off? And that was to suggest that America Vasquez would continue on having adventures rather than there ever being another one on the way. Was there plans for more and they didn't end up happening? Was there possibly cold feet by the people involved? Was there maybe legal problems with Marvel? All this, too, is a bit more interesting than this issue by itself. I respect a writer who was in Joe Kelly's positions right to exert his frustration in this manner. I think it's a shame that he didn't manage to tell a story here. The true revenge would be if this was a comic that showed greater value in Joe Kelly's version of the character by absurd levels of quality rather than sneaky snideish parody, holding up a mirror to myself again there. Maybe I would be a better YouTuber with more subscribers if I didn't say all the wrong names and I did it all properly. 7 thumbs up.